Hi there, I'm Samantha Murphy, and along with Mitch Underhay and Tracy Wade, we form the consulting team for the development of the first official plan and land use bylaw for the rural municipality of West River. This presentation is the third public session in the planning process. Our discussion will focus on the concepts captured in the draft official plan and how those policies can be implemented through the land use bylaw. I will give you an overview of the timeline and process, and then we will get into the zoning framework, present the zoning map, and provide some key highlights, ending with the next steps in the process. Since the last session, the consulting team took what we heard from the public, and through several consultations with the Planning Board and Council, we prepared draft documents. Tonight we present these drafts for public comments. This slide illustrates the public sessions and touch points that the team has undertaken over the course of the last 8 months or so. In addition, the project website and social media have been used to regularly share information with the public, as has been the municipality's website. We thank those who have taken the time to contribute to the project using those tools. The Municipal Council has developed and approved a vision statement, which we have drawn upon to create this community vision statement to guide decisions related to land use policy. Now we turn to some of the key sections of the planning documents, starting with the proposed zones. The rural municipality of West River is a predominantly rural community, and we have created 5 zones to reflect this rural nature. The 5 zones are rural area, rural residential, commercial industrial, open space, and environmental risk. We will discuss each of these, their purpose, and the permitted uses in the next few slides. Importantly, there are some uses that will be permitted in all zones: institutional uses, for example, community centers, parks and open space uses such as trails, farm gate sales to support the rural local economy, and finally, utility structures, as these are established for public purposes. We have also employed site-specific uses as a tool to deal with those unique situations that may be appropriate to the lot but need to go through a public process to ensure the proposal is a good fit in the vicinity. I'll give you some examples as we go through. When you look at the zoning and future land use maps for the community, you'll see that the rural area zone is the predominant zone throughout the municipality. The focus of this zone is on primary resource industries and their activities: agriculture, fishing, and forestry. Commercial activities related to resource uses are also permitted, as are animal sanctuaries. Residential uses will continue to be common in this zone, including both single-detached as well as duplexes or semi-detached dwellings. We've also included small-scale commercial that is not related to resource industries, such as bakeries or certain tourism uses that are limited by size. Accessory uses are those uses incidental to the main use and include the list here, such as home-based businesses or small wind turbines for personal use. Dormitories are generally used for seasonal workers related to farming. In terms of site-specific uses, these are developments that would have to go through a public process. We've included resource-related industrial uses, such as food processing plants, intensive resource uses, such as hog operations and excavation pits, kennels, and large wind and solar energy developments. Where these are listed as site-specific in a zone, when such a development is proposed, it would be up to Council, with input from the public, to determine if it is to be permitted on the site in question. The rural residential zone is primarily for a range of residential uses. Given that the vast majority of residential lots in the municipality use on-site services, wells and septic systems, it is not appropriate to use the term R1 as you might find in a more urban center where there are public services. Permitted uses here are a range of housing types which would be permitted based on meeting minimum standards for lot size and service capability on site. Accessory uses like home-based businesses, garages, and secondary suites are also permitted. Site-specific uses in this zone include clustered housing proposals such as vacant land condominiums, or conservation subdivisions which require small clustered residential lots on shared services with 50% of the land base being maintained as open space. These types of developments are more intensive but still reflect the desire of the community to maintain that rural feel. The commercial industrial zone includes properties that are currently being used for commercial or industrial activities. We have not pre-zoned any vacant land to permit such activity. As such, any new commercial or industrial uses that are being considered and are not permitted in the rural area zone must go through the public process of a zoning amendment. Permitted uses are listed in this table and include a range of commercial activities, any residential uses, as well as some specific uses that tend to be common or controversial in other zones. Light industrial uses, including such things as warehousing and manufacturing that does not involve excessive noise, smell, light, or other activities that may create conflicts with neighboring uses. Accessory uses are similar to other zones. Cannabis operations or heavier industrial uses are required to go through the site-specific consideration processes. The open space zone is created to cover those lands set aside for conservation or recreational activities. As noted in the table, permitted uses include historic and heritage uses, trails, pavilions, recreation facilities, and sports fields. These lands can be held privately or publicly, but are intended generally for public use and enjoyment without profit or significant impact on the land base. A golf course is considered a commercial use because of the intensive nature of the operation and because it is intended to generate income for private use. The disc golf course is much more of a recreational property, which is much less intensive in nature. Accessory uses include buildings and concession stands, administration offices, and parking facilities. The environmental risk zone is a protective zone that is concerned with the safety of people and the viability of structures in flood risk areas, areas subject to erosion, and on contaminated sites. It is a protective measure for Cornwall's wellfield, which is partially located within the municipality. It also includes buffers along wetlands, watercourses, and coastal areas, as well as a proposed buffer of 60 meters along the Upper West River to protect a valuable salmon spawning area. Permitted uses vary by what the development constraint is, with the ultimate goal being the protection of the environment and people in areas that could become hazards. The following slides illustrate how the environmental risk zone works in terms of buffers and setbacks from environmental hazards. As shown here, the environmental risk zone is a 15-meter buffer from the edge of a watercourse or wetland. In the case of a coastline, it is either 15 meters or 60 times the annual rate of erosion, whichever is greater. These reflect provincial standards across the island. There is also a vertical buffer for any proposal below a minimum elevation based on future flood risks identified by the province. Depending on the grade of the land from the coastline, the horizontal buffers established through the environmental risk zone, and the required building setbacks in specific zones, the placement of new buildings below a certain elevation may also be restricted. However, there may be opportunity to engineer the site to raise the grade to meet the minimum elevation requirements outside of the environmental reserve zone, as shown in the bottom graphic. Uses requiring site-specific amendments that were noted for most zones allow very specific uses on individual parcels of land. Without this process, these specific uses would not otherwise be permitted or conform to the bylaw. Applications for site-specific uses go through a bylaw amendment process which is public and approved at Council's discretion. Appendix C here is an example of how site-specific uses are tracked in the bylaw. Here is the proposed rural municipalities' future land use map. It will be almost exactly the same as the zoning map. In urban centres, there would be many different types of residential or commercial zones that would be shown differently. For the rural municipality, this map illustrates the future land uses and identifies possible future community nodes with circles. These nodes will not be depicted on the zoning map. Now that we have presented the zones, one of the keys that define the different zones are the subdivision standards for each. Given that the goal in the rural area zone is to protect primary resource uses, this zone will require large minimum residential lot sizes at 5 acres, and a restricted number of new lots will be permitted for each existing parcel. Specifically, the creation of 4 new lots will be allowed, with up to 2 of those lots being commercial. In order to minimize large-scale commercial uses not appropriate to rural areas, a 2-acre maximum will be established for new commercial lots. In the rural residential zone, 1-acre lots will be permitted, with even smaller lots encouraged where shared water and wastewater services are provided. There will be no limit on the number of lots, assuming that they can be serviced. Otherwise, lots are limited to what is permitted in provincial regulations based on soil quality and lot size. Commercial industrial zone rules limit the maximum lot size to 2 acres, and there can be up to 2 commercial lots subdivided off a parent parcel. Again, this limit is imposed to reduce the amount of commercial or industrial activity proposed in the region, pushing very large activities into municipal businesses or industrial parks where they can be serviced and reduce conflicts with neighboring uses. There are no subdivision standards for lands in the open space zone. As noted earlier, home-based businesses are permitted in any zone where residential uses are permitted. They have been defined to limit what is included in them, so no auto body shops or car washes are included, as they can be more intrusive. Small-scale auto body shops in the rural area zones are one of those site-specific uses that may be permitted following a public meeting. For those larger subdivision proposals, particularly those that fall within the rural residential zone, the municipality will require 10% of the land to be put towards parkland dedication where there are 3 or more lots. If there isn't an appropriate area of land for recreation purposes, council can take cash in lieu. This land or cash in lieu dedication must be for recreational uses such as natural areas, trails, or the like. Private roads are a significant issue for the municipality. This map illustrates the network of both public and private roads, with over 80 kilometers of roadways privately held. As many former cottage properties are being converted to year-round residences, the official plan and land use bylaw do not differentiate between cottages and single detached dwellings. For all intents and purposes, they are the same from a regulatory point of view. In the land use bylaw, proposed standards include the following: no new or extensions to private roads. All new roads and extensions must be public, meaning they are built to public standard and deeded to the province, and the development of existing lots on private roads will be permitted, subject to certain criteria and conditions. Another unique feature for West River is the Cornwall Special Planning Area, which takes in the areas in green on the map. As some of you know, the Special Planning Area has 3 main rules: prioritize and protect resource uses, minimize the potential for conflict between uses, and limit unserviced development. In our proposed approach, the areas subject to the Special Planning Area and those beyond are treated in essentially the same way. This reflects the values expressed to us by the public throughout this process, being the protection of the rural character and resource uses, as well as the goal of bringing the various communities together under the umbrella of the new, larger municipality. In this, we have addressed the 3 Special Planning Area objectives that must be met through limiting the size and scale of new developments with on-site servicing, limiting the overall number of lots in the rural area zone, prioritizing resource uses with caveats on permits, and addressing potential conflicts through the use of the site-specific amendment process. The one aspect in this approach that will feature a difference for areas under the Special Planning Area will be the requirement for multi-lot subdivisions in the Special Planning Area to include shared services. Council has suggested that public input on the draft documents presented here will be open until March 10th. After that time, the team will compile all of the comments heard both here and in the next week or so to prepare a draft of the documents that will go for legal review. Once legal review is completed in May, the official plan and land use bylaw will be formally presented to the public at a statutory public meeting around approximately May 31st. After that meeting, only minor revisions can be made to the documents based on public feedback. They will then be formally adopted by Council in June. After that, the documents are sent to the province for ministerial approval. As always, there are multiple ways to engage in the discussion: through the project website, by email, or by following along through our social media accounts. You can also reach the municipal office by phone. Thank you for your time. We look forward to hearing from you.